I would like to thank you and welcome you to the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for the city of Meridian, Idaho. The date is Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. It is 5:31 p.m. Can we get roll call?
Yes, thank you. Keith Bevan,
Present?
Jennifer Bobo,
Present.
Dom Gelsomino,
Present.
Joe Greer,
Present.
Ellie Hood,
Present.
Mandy Roberts,
Present.
Mike Medlin is absent, John Nesmith is absent, and Brandon Simpson is absent.
Thank you. Can we get a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Gelsomino.
I'd like to motion for the adoption of the agenda.
Second?
I'd like to second that.
Second? All in favor of the adoption of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Agenda is adopted. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the December 24th, 2022 regular meeting of the commission?
Mr. President,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Roberts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, by nay? Okay, the minutes of last month's meeting have been adopted. Approved. Okay, moving on to the agenda for tonight's meeting. First item is upcoming events with Shelley Houston.
Hello, commissioners. Sorry, frog in my throat. Happy New Year. Isn't it exciting? Can hardly stand it. Well, one of the things we do at the start of each year is kind of clean the slate and start building kind of the master calendar of events that we have to look forward to. And if you remember, we kind of get off to a slow start in January and February and March, and then it just kind of starts, like a snowball down the hill, and we'll be super busy in the spring, summer and fall. So what I've provided you is kind of just the preliminary sketch of the dates of events that I know of that are kind of the biggies. That's not to say there won't be other events that we sandwich in or events put on by outside organizations, but these are the ones that the city is probably most invested in. This really isn't meant for public consumption quite yet, so I wouldn't have you put it on your Facebook or Instagram, but at least you can kind of start looking it over and maybe marking your calendar if you have some favorite events. Or maybe this is a year when you'd like to find out if there's a chance to volunteer at some of these events, or you'd like a closer look, or you have some ideas or suggestions for us. So I'm going to leave this with you. And like I say, it's subject to some slight change, and I'm sure we'll probably add some more events, and there will be other things like coffee with the mayor or town hall meetings, and we'll try to keep you apprised of all those. But for now, this is a good little head start for us. And we're really looking forward to a big year. We've got registrations open right now for 4 different sports leagues: softball, volleyball, cornhole. There's one other. I can't remember. Anyway, wooden bat league, the senior wooden bat league. We've taken over the men's. We've got guys in their 70s and 80s and 90s playing ball. So that's cool. We've also got a big bus load of 50 seniors age 50 and better headed up to the McCall Winter Carnival with us at the end of the month. So that'll be fun. That filled up fast. So we've got lots of classes and activities going. And like I say, we're in planning mode for all of these Marvy events, and we'll just keep you posted as additional ones get added to the calendar. Any questions, comments, worries, anything at all? If you need me, I'll be playing music bingo at the Tap House. 70s rock.
Ooh, nice.
thank you, Shelley. Okay, we will now be moving on to new business. And first on the agenda is Cassandra Schiffler with the Meridian Arts and Culture Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, commissioners. This is my first time reporting to you. I've been with the city for a year. I was supposed to report back in June, and then I had COVID, and then some cancellations and things. So I'm excited that this is my first presentation to you. And to give you a little bit of background on my position, I work with two other commissions, the Meridian Arts Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission. So I'm probably the only city employee that reports to three different commissions. The Arts Commission's mission is to develop, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts and to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and visitors. These are our commissioners. There's a couple that just recently let me know that they're resigning. So I don't know if you saw the city, the announcement that there are positions open for both of these commissions. So if you have anyone interested in serving on a commission, please let them know that those are available. The Historic Preservation Commission's mission is to preserve the character and fabric of historically significant areas and structures within the city of Meridian to honor and preserve its rich heritage for future generations. And here are those commissioners. And I do all of the administration for both of these commissions. So I'll start with some of the historic preservation projects that I've been working on in coordination with the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission. There is, that looks better on your screen. Oh. The formatting is a little bit it's not full screen. That's okay. So May is Preservation Month. This year we went back to in-person events. The last couple of years there were not any in-person events, and the Historic Commission President Blaine led some tours of downtown Meridian, talking about sort of some of the old and new structures that we have. And we also had a presentation about historic railroads and things, and did some various activities for the month, and we're planning some for this year. We partnered with Whole Films to create a virtual tour of Meridian sites. This is an ongoing project. So last year we added several sites, mostly along Idaho Street at 4 different locations, and some out along Highway 16. And the purpose of this project is to sort of document these sites as they might change over time. And if you visit that website, and you can go to the city's webpage and find the virtual tours, but there are these 360 tours where you can kind of like look in a 360 format all along. And then there's also some points that you can click on that show some of the history. So it's a really cool project. And looking forward to, in 2023, looking at Eggers Farmstead, because there's a developer that has recently purchased that site. There's the image there. That's the last remaining double silo structure, definitely in the valley, possibly in the state of Idaho. It's a pretty unique structure. So I want to try to preserve it in some way, which is likely just going to be documenting through photos, though the Historic Preservation Commission would like to see additional preservation. We'll see where that goes. We also hope you are aware of this, the self-guided walking tours. They are available for download on the iPhone or Android. You just put into your apps, Meridian History Tours, and then you can walk around sort of self-guided. There's some videos and some, it kind of locates you with your phone as to where you are and tells you which site is near you. So that's a cool project too. You may have heard me mention on the tour earlier, the Meridian Speedway is up for a nomination to the National Historic Registry. That was returned for some additional work before it can be listed, but hopeful that that nomination is going to go forward, but just needs some additional work. Another history project is a survey of the North Main Street area. So completed phase 1 of this, working on phase 2. And the purpose of this survey, it's sort of a street level survey with a consultant that goes through kind of street by street and takes photos of various properties, and then looks at the, their potential eligibility for the National Register of Historic Places. It could also result in areas that might be eligible for like a historic district overlay. So they will come back with the final project for that and recommendations this next year. And on to Arts Commission projects. So arts funding in Meridian comes from the Meridian Art and Public Spaces. It's an ordinance that City Council had. City Council allocates 50 cents per Meridian resident with a cap of $50,000 a year to MAPS funding. So when they first enacted this, I think the Meridian population was probably like 80,000 people. So that means how much money would that be? That'd be $40,000. How many residents do we have today? Anyone? 130,000-ish. So that would mean that it would be about $66,000 per year, but there was a cap of 50,000. And one kind of great change, in my opinion, is that they removed that cap this year in City Council. So the public art funding will grow commensurate with population growth now. So the Public Art Committee identifies and develops projects with these funds. Those are some images of previous projects. We started one at the 5 Mile Creek Pathway Trail Hub site. This was before I was with the city. And then that project, actually, we reopened the call with a higher budget and a revised RFP process. And I'm very pleased to say that it was successful. And this is the project that was selected by artist Eileen Gay from Nevada. It's called Water Metrics. And that RFP process, we had more public art applicants than Meridian has ever had. And we had artists nationally and internationally apply for this call. And then with the RFQ process, they selected 4 finalists that submitted proposals. And I know some of you on the Parks Commission were also involved in that selection process to come up with this is the final project. So this is planned for installation this summer. These are a few more views of the project. So they're 8 feet high and they're mosaics, which you don't really get the feel for mosaics in these images. And it looks like water, but that's mosaic. And they are, here's another image there. They'll be kind of set apart so you can see like a bike can kind of come through. And the idea is that it's sort of a gateway, which this trail hub is a bit of a gateway sort of site from the trail hub to the 5 Mile Creek Pathway. So that was a nice idea. Some of the images on there, that's native Idaho wildlife and some potatoes. And then there's some birds on the other side too. Other projects in the public art, murals, there's a mural series. And these are the first 2, the one at Meridian Cycles was completed last year. That middle project is one of my first projects that I've completed while I was with the city. So I'm really proud. This is probably my favorite project so far at the Unbound Library. And then there's another one planned at the Meridian Pool next spring for installation in April. Another mural project that happened this last year was at Tully Skate Park. And we partnered Miguel Almeida, a professional mural artist who's done lots of work in the Valley, with a youth apprentice. There was a call to artists that went out for the youth artist. And I guess I just want to read some of what she put in her statement because I thought it was great. In addition to keeping this, and this is from the youth artist, what she wrote, Macy. In addition to keeping art in the public view, my goal was to inspire kids when they would come up to me during the installation and ask questions or just sit and observe for a bit. It made me feel more connected to the effect that my mural would have on the community. I made sure to answer those questions and allowed them to watch because I used to love doing the same thing when I was younger. It always made me feel inspired to do better art more often. And so that was an inspiration for others. Oh, so to be that inspiration for others was a surreal experience. And these are the completed murals. We were going to do a ribbon cutting ceremony, but the weather, it kind of got a little bit too late in the year. So I'm hoping that we can still do this event potentially as Unplug and Be Outside, as sort of a ribbon cutting for these pieces in conjunction with Prestige Skate. It's a local skate shop to do like a skate competition at Tully. Traffic box series, and I'm kind of reporting to you on some 2021 because you haven't had an arts and culture report for a while. So in 2021, there were 7 wraps from the repository and 5 from the West Data School Show. And so there's some of the pieces that were wrapped. You'll notice actually Miguel Almeida in the bottom right is the same artist that did the Tully Skate Park one. So hopefully you've seen these around town. This is one of our most popular public art projects. And then there were 10 more wraps installed this year. There's a nice image of one. She was the senior high school student. She won the photography competition. And the fire stations were sort of prioritized. Well, rewrapping wraps that the wraps sort of have a lifespan of 5 to 10 years. So we rewrapped several wraps that kind of had some condition issues. And so those are kind of the priority. And then moving into other locations based on visibility and other recommendations and things. So this year it was kind of the fire stations. So if you are driving by the fire stations, you'll see those wraps too. Concerts on Broadway this last year were a huge success, I thought. It was my first time doing a major event. Or bigger events with hundreds of people. But these are all images from this year. We had great attendance and also coming out of COVID, it was great. But I heard from people that it was better attended than most of the years ever in the past. And this was the 14th season for these. We had food trucks and openers for each of them. And it was great. Looking forward to next year too. We had the Tammy DeVeards Awards in the Arts. These are some of the recipients and various people on the Arts Commission that gave those awards. We presented them at the concerts on Broadway that happened during Art Week, which was a nice way to present those awards to all of those community members. Art Week was also a really busy and active week. Did lots of events, art drop, chalk art, there's music and classes, and both of the murals that were happening at Unbound until they happened during Art Week, which was a nice way to sort of combine and get a lot of enthusiasm for the week. Plein air painters went out around and were just kind of doing their thing. Plein air painters they just take their easel out and they paint in plein air, which is the French word for just on site. And the concerts on Broadway happened during Art Week. Gallery exhibits. There is a gallery on the 3rd floor of City Hall, and it has an exhibit every month or every 2 months, and you should definitely check it out. We had 11 exhibits this last year with 172 artists shown, which is a lot. The West Ada School District show has quite a few of those artists, but there's also larger artist organizations like Bosco, which is up right now, also did a show of the College of Western Idaho art faculty and other individual artists that group together for shows. Here's the current show that's up. It's the Boise Open Studios Collective. And it says Boise Open Studios, but it's actually artists from the whole Treasure Valley that are members in that organization. That'll be up for the rest of this month. And also, if you're interested in some of those arts and culture activities, I encourage you to follow the social media accounts for the Meridian Arts Commission and Meridian History on Facebook and Instagram. The Meridian Arts one is particularly active. So to kind of sum up some of the things, I had the top 10 highlights of things that happened in 2022 for myself was completing the 3 mural projects, installing 10 new traffic boxes, coordinating and hanging the 11 exhibits, coordinating the Tammy DeVeards Awards. I didn't talk about this too much, but the sponsorship of the Treasure Valley Children's Theater performances, which is moving a little bit of a different direction. I'll talk about that on the next slide. The concerts on Broadway, Art Week, the Main Street survey nomination process on our end is mostly complete, just waiting to hear back, and Historic Preservation Month. So looking forward to 2023. Here are some of my goals and priorities. Working on a public art master plan. This has been in the works for a while. And I think we probably need the help of a consultant to finalize that agreement. So I'm trying to figure out budgeting and where that can come from to do a high quality public art plan. But along with that line, prioritizing our future projects. Discovery Park is kind of in the works for probably the next big project, although there's lots of other things and ideas in the works. The mural at the Meridian Pool, the installation of water metrics at the 5 Mile Creek Pathway Trail Hub. It's a mouthful. Eventually that's a working title, so that'll need to be named at some point, that site. Also, I just got a council just approved yesterday a special traffic box project. I don't know if you heard the sort of tragic accident at with the high school student at 10 Mile and Pine. He was hit by a truck and killed while he was walking to school. And the father of that student reached out because the student was an artist and had some pieces and so sort of submitted that as a special project. So we're wrapping a traffic box with that student's artwork at that intersection. Installation of new park identity and theming signage at Seasons Park, which will be my next presentation. The initial point gallery and the new call for youth performing arts projects. So previously the Arts Commission sponsored Treasure Valley Children's Theater, but then we had multiple organizations coming to us for that funding. So that is now going to be this call for performing arts projects that's open right now and will go through February 24th. So if you know of any professional performing art people or organizations that have projects that they would like to try and get funded, then please encourage them to apply. Concerts on Broadway, Art Week, and collaborating to make the community art party success. The community art party is kind of Renee's baby, but we work together and we're going to continue to work together to really develop that event. May's coming up is Historic Preservation Month, completing the North Main Street survey and finalizing the Speedway nomination and hopefully celebrating that with signage and potentially event when it hopefully is approved. So, questions, comments, feedback.
Thank you, Cassandra. You guys do a lot.
Yes, they have a lot of various projects that are very exciting. I feel like this job is not routine at all, and I love it. So,
Questions?
Mr. President. And also you forgot to mention that you assisted quite a bit for Christmas. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Cassie and she also knows Thriller dance.
oh, you remember that.
So that's actually what I first decided. I just really like you because that was really brave it was Arts Week and they had the children's theater, but I really appreciated your help for the parade and everything else. Of course.
Mr. President.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, I'm really glad that they lifted the cap from 50,000 because I really do believe that art should grow with the community and opportunities for art and funding for art. And I was just wondering, with that increase, have you analyzed the types of artwork and the budgets for those and how that fits? I mean, does that seem like it's been a sufficient amount, especially with the cap increasing, or?
I need to adjust the budget based on that new cap and sort of do some planning to see what's possible. Right now, we still have a carry forward. And one of the great things I think about that fund is that it's one of the very few budgets that they sort of allow to carry forward. It's written in the ordinance.
Good.
Because a lot of projects, public art projects, the traffic boxes are lower budget, but that installation, the water metrics, that's a $50,000 installation. And honestly, I think that artist is selling herself short at 50,000.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's nice that budget carries forward so that we can sort of save up for some of these bigger projects.
Yeah.
But Discovery Park, they're looking at $150,000 budget. So that's one of the bigger projects that's kind of saved up for a few years.
Oh, good.
And there's lots of ideas for various projects. And that's one of the next things for the Public Art Committee is prioritizing some of those projects.
Oh, that's good. So there can be additional projects that are funded in addition to the annual amount that you have for funding. So, okay. I was just in Joseph, Oregon over the weekend. If you've ever been there, it's a place that celebrates art. Very small town, much smaller than Meridian, and some gigantic, beautiful sculptures downtown that are just amazing. So I just hope that we'll continue to invest in arts and have more as we grow. So thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for your presentation. And I think you are also up again for your next presentation having to do with the theming of Seasons Park. So I will turn the time back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair or Mr. President?
Either.
Okay. My Historic Preservation Commission is president and my Arts Commission is chair. So there's a new project. I didn't mention this so much in the presentation, but another one that we're working on, the Parks Identity and Theming Signage Project at Seasons Park. So here's the Seasons Park sign right now. You can see maybe it's a little bit dated. This is one of the neighborhood parks. And here is the project sort of as proposed by Trademark. The materials that they're looking at working with are this 3-form panels. They're kind of like these durable acrylic translucent pieces. And here are some of the options. I'm going to present a few options and we're looking for feedback on which options you would like. I presented this to the Arts Commission and they sort of said that looks great. The neighborhood would probably be pleased, but didn't get a lot of feedback on like which option. So that's something we're looking for from you. So option number 1, this is sort of a tall, more vertical piece using that 3-form material. And you can see as the material overlaps with some of the others, then you get some different colors happening. And the outside frame is a powder coated aluminum frame. Here it is, it's sort of has a little bit less of that really vertical sort of feel and a little bit longer concrete block. And then one that's more on its side. And I think, I think Steve might have liked this one. Mike liked this one and I liked this one, not to let that inform you. So here are the 3 kind of side by side. And before you think about that too much, in addition to that, we're looking at the pavilion underneath. Rita Husky has a really nice sort of pavilion signage that goes along with the other signage to kind of work with each other. So here's the 2 pavilion sort of designs. I'll go back to these ones and ask for your feedback.
Mr. President, if I could add, I
Mike.
think that the leaf design, that it's a little bit hard to tell from just this graphic, but they're actually going to carve like leaf veins in there. So they look a little bit more realistic and the changing colors are supposed to be the change of season.
Right. Yeah, you can see it in the green. You can see the veins of the leaf.
Yeah, it's
in that
hard to,
picture. And the yellow, I guess, yeah.
anyway, wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Mr. President. So
Sugar.
the color portion, is that the same size in all of them? Because from that view, it looks like it is, but then when you back out, the first one looks enormous. And then it looks smaller.
It does. And I think that's just kind of the
Optical.
scaling because both that one and that one are 12 feet high.
Okay.
Any thoughts, commission? Are we looking for input from us or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
To speak.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, okay. When you first pulled it up, I liked the tall option, but when you see them all lined out, option 1 seems to be, I don't know, draws more attention, takes up more space, better balance. It's just my opinion.
That was my thought exactly. Option 2, I think the sign is too little. It'd be hard to read. I liked it the best when we saw it individually, but then when you see it like that, you can't read the sign very well.
Exactly.
President, I'm going to agree on that. I think a lot of our signs, especially even at Discovery Park, are just very vertical. I don't think I've noticed any of them that have the same design look as option 3, but option 1 gives us a bit of both.
I think my slight preference is 1 over 3. It's because you get the leaf feel more. That makes sense.
Yes.
Roberts, you have any?
Yes, I
Thoughts?
would agree. I was sort of leaning towards 3, but when you mentioned the leaf motif and that standing out more with 1, that is true. And I like that. I wanted to ask if this particular approach is something that'll be just specific to this park? Or are we looking to repeat this in other locations with the translucent pieces?
Good question. This is specific to this park and this project because the whole park identity and theming is that each one will be kind of different and unique.
That's great.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
Just as a quick clarification, the red outline, is that going to be part of the art piece, or is that just outline, graphic image outline?
Good question. It is a powder coated aluminum frame that'll kind of help reinforce and the structure.
Mr. President, actually, this question might be for Mike. Do you think that there will be a problem with people climbing on it?
I think the material, from what Trademark was saying, the material is certainly durable enough for use in a park. So climbing, throwing things at it, everything that you could imagine that would happen in a park, it's going to get. And if you, when Cassandra and I were down there, they had samples of this acrylic material, and it's really thick and really tough. I mean, you could climb on it all day and not hurt it.
Sandra, can you go back to one of the designs? Does it say, well, or does it say with the thickness of the acrylic? Or maybe on the, it doesn't really, but that looks like it's about a half inch. I mean, in my business, I use acrylic, and I can tell you half-inch acrylic, you could drive a car on it. I mean, it's plexiglass, bulletproof glass. I mean, yeah, it's pretty rigid, but that's a great question, because if it was thin, I would, yeah.
The question
worry
I was
about.
really geared more towards is, what are you going to put around it? Because if it is something that draws kids to play on it, are you going to consider that with the landscape?
You know, as far as like liability goes, if somebody climbs on it and falls off, I mean, it's not considered a play element. So I think it's use it, you know, I mean, if you're going to climb on something that's not intended to be climbed on, then you better be careful.
Let me rephrase that. So what I mean is, are you going to plant so that if people climb on it, it's not going to damage the plants? Because being at some of the other parks, kids climb on everything, even huge power boxes. I've been after them myself. And so somebody will probably climb on it, and it sounds like it's durable enough. I just would hate to see the plants get trampled.
Most of our signs have annual flower plantings.
Oh,
Them, so
yeah.
During the warm weather, they're going to have petunias and, you know, all those colorful flowers, and hopefully the kids, I mean, they're going to trample maybe some, but yeah, we've gone away from permanent plantings under the signs and gone more towards flowers, having that nice color spot there.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Commissioner Hood, any thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I think I like option 3 the best. I think especially if we're talking about climbing on it, I think option 1 looks the most climbable. I would probably climb on it. I know my brother would. I get the leaf design looking better vertical. I just feel like it looks more like a sign in option 3. I just feel like it looks better.
I guess I was initially leaning it toward option 1. I like, the bigger wording of Season Park compared to 2. So 1 and 3, I think the name of the park is bigger, easier to read if you're driving up the road. People know what it is. I guess I like both the vertical and horizontal part of option 1, but then there's the idea too of option 3's. If we're talking about kids climbing on it, it's only 8 feet tall. So if somebody falls off of it, it's 4 feet less. But I don't know how often we design stuff worried about, that. So I think we kind of have more of an opinion on option 1, but option 3 too, as well. So
I think we'll be happy with whatever you
yeah,
choose.
but it's a great design.
I mean,
Mr. Chair, this is Emily. I think Dom's microphone might be off.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, so mine's completely inverted where if it's the lights on, the mic's on, and so, okay. Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
You know, but parents sometimes can't keep an eye on all their. Is there a way to incorporate a do not climb, do not, just don't do it sign in the art piece where it's visible but not, doesn't take away from the beauty of the design? I know Mike is.
I knew you were gonna
ardently
look over
opposed
here.
to signs.
Defer that question to Mike. I'm not sure what we have in the other parks. I don't think we have any of those signs on the other public art and signage pieces, but
We don't, we tend to use as few signs as possible just because of the aspect of the clutter, and the people that are out to do something like that aren't going to read the sign. If there is something, let us put some thought into that and see what we can come up with that might help deter climbing in the design. Maybe the letters are, can't be used as a foothold. I mean, if it's okay, we'd like to take that comment and think about it. So lengthwise,
Looks like you're gonna, it looks like you're gonna have 3 or 4 layers of that acrylic. So that's at least a couple inches wide plus, and then there's the aluminum frames, probably a little bit bigger than that. I'm gonna guess it's at least 4 inches wide. The top part, right? With the frame and everything. So the concrete stanchion might be 4 or 6 inches, right? Which is definitely wide enough for somebody to stand on. If they wanted to.
definitely wide enough. In
So-
fact, it's going to be closer to 12 to 18 inches
Okay.
thick. Only because if it's
Has to
more
stand.
narrow, it's going to crack.
Yeah. For
So we got to have enough strength there
durability.
to
Oh,
make it durable. Somebody could sit on there for sure. I think it's more likely that somebody's going to come and sit on this
yeah.
than climb. And but that's a good comment. Good perspective.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other comments or questions, Commission?
Mr. President.
Yes.
I was just gonna add, I think the third option would also be kind of cool to take pictures with. I mean, that's not really the point of a sign, but I think just having it like 8 feet tall and right there, like you could take pictures around it and it would be pretty for events. And I think like if it was posted somewhere, it would maybe encourage more people to go to the park versus the other ones. You can get like a couple people around the sign with the design in it.
Thank you. Good point. Okay, so is that?
yeah,
Give you some good
thank
feedback.
you. Sounds like you're leaning towards option 1 or 3 and think about the lettering, climbing issues. I know we're still looking to maybe get some feedback from the HOA and the neighborhood, and then probably the mayor's office. But yes, that's great feedback. Thank you. Did you want to also take a look at these ones and give feedback on those?
Yeah, we probably should.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Roberts.
I was really drawn by the tie-in between the design of the option one and the sign with the overlap of the colors, which you don't see as much in the option two. I just kind of like things that tie together. So I also just like the detail in that design, and it's symmetrical, whereas the sign is asymmetrical, but they still tie together with their colors. So that's my thought.
Mr. President, I like
Commissioner?
option one because option two looks like a dragonfly or some sort of bug.
Looks like a bug.
Dragonflies?
No, I mean, not dragonfly, but some sort of bug. The other one looks like a leaf.
Okay.
Mr.
I-
President,
yeah.
I agree. I
One.
concur.
Yeah, I like option one a lot. Two is. I don't know.
That was also kind of it sounds like you're all leaning sort of more towards option
Yeah.
one, which I think was kind of the preference when I circulated that too. So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. I'd like to thank Cassandra for all the time and effort she put in both to present to us today, as well as the great job that they're doing with arts and culture for Meridian and the parks in the city. So thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Mike Barton with the Pathways update.
Hello, commissioners. So it's been a little while since we've come and talked to you about pathways, obviously. We usually do a workshop, and for whatever reason that it kind of got lost in all the other agendas and a couple of meetings that were canceled. So here we are. And what I want to talk about is I have some map enlargements to show you, and really the goal of this presentation is to bring you up to speed on some of the projects that we currently have, some of the projects that we've completed, and then also to adopt a new pathways map. And so that's important because an adopted map is what we use to condition pathways for the development community to install. If you have a pathway on your property that you're going to develop, you need to, record an easement and then build that pathway. So eventually the goal is to have a fully completed system that people can use to walk and bike and recreate. So that adoption is extremely important. So some of these maps, obviously we're going to go through really quick. And what I'm going to do is we're going to email this presentation to you along with a spreadsheet that shows all the changes between the adopted pathways map and the map that as it currently exists today. And then what I'd like to do is ask you to take a couple of weeks and look at these maps, see if we're missing anything, see if there's anything that we should add or take out or any changes, and then email those comments to me directly. Don't talk about the changes amongst yourself outside of a meeting, but email those changes. And then I'll come back in the meeting in March with a revised map. And there may be one or two, and there may be none, but I just want to, so tonight we're not going to have enough time to study this map and go over it and with a fine tooth comb. But what I'd like you to do is do that on your own at your convenience sometime over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So again, these are, this is the updated map as it currently exists. Some of the new projects that we're working on, there's a lot of development northwest Meridian, especially with Highway 16. We've got an agreement with ITD to build a pedestrian bridge over the top of 5 Mile Creek to have a north-south pathway connection alongside that road. And then also ITD is going over the top of 5 Mile Creek so we can get our pathway underneath. So obviously that's going to be a major barrier right there, and we want to make sure that pedestrians can get past that barrier. A couple of other new projects we have. This is 10 Mile and Ustick area. You can see the trailhead kind of in the bottom right-hand corner of that map. And this is what we've been calling segment D over the years. We partnered with Brighton Corporation to enlarge a bridge in their subdivision from 7 feet to 10 feet. So the multi-use path can go along the canal bank on the south side and then transition to the north side of 5 Mile Creek. The bridge is done. And then we have a current project that is to complete that pathway segment, that segment D that we've been talking about. And we have a partnership with ACHD. They've been conditioned to build a pathway across their maintenance yard. We have a bridge that we're going to install over 9 Mile Creek and then complete the paving of that segment. And as you can see from the red lines, once that kind of that missing tooth is in, then it's going to open up a lot of pathway. I think we rode up to, we didn't get quite that far on our pathways tour, but this is going to open up. It's kind of one of those missing teeth that, you know, it's once this is done. So we're on schedule to bid that this spring and then construct in the fall and spring of next year to have that, you know, by this time next year, we'll be under construction. We have to get some of the irrigation crossings done during the non-irrigating season. So we're kind of on that schedule. And please, if you have any questions as we're going through these, please stop me and
Mr. President? Mike, what is that lime green color? Like what the one around Walmart or the one that near the sections where you're building, but not where the arrows are, but not the yellow part? What's that green part?
Yeah, great question. So those are what we're calling long-term routes. Those are routes that are very difficult right now. But if we get them on the map and as things redevelop, someday there will be a pathway there. And someday, you know, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the lime green line. Well, there's a mini storage facility there, and it's built kind of right next to the canal bank, and it would be really expensive to pipe it. And we just can't, right now, we just can't get a pathway in there, but we want to at least get it on the map. So if something changes in the future, it's there and we can condition that. Great question. Another one, again, Cayuse Creek to Winco. This is along Linder Road. Linder Road is going to be a major kind of a north-south connection to Meridian to Eagle Island State Park. Once Linder Road gets widened, they're going to put ACHD is going to put a multi-use path on both sides of Linder. There's going to be ways to get underneath Linder along the north channel. And then this will provide a connection also down to Duck Alley and then over to Margaret Aldape Park. So kind of longer term, looking out that way. So Linder Road is important to get that 10-foot wide multi-use path on the side of the road. And this is a project that's been bid and it's been awarded and we're going to break ground this spring.
Mr. President, can you go back, Mike? Is the one by the skate park, isn't that done?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've ridden on it lots and lots of times.
So that's a little further south.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's Ustick, and this is north of McMillan.
Sorry. Yes.
From
Okay.
Cayuse
I'm
Creek
with
to
you
the
now.
new Winco.
I thought it was the dotted yellow line, but it's not. I'm right. Wrong part. Got it.
That's okay.
Got it.
Good question. Keep it. Yeah. keep
Thinking.
going. Locust Grove sidewalk widening. we did a couple, we put there's a little missing tooth there on McMillan that's close to the corner of McMillan and Locust Grove Road. And we got an easement from the property owner and we put a soft surface trail in there just to keep the kids out of the mud. During the winter, they were kind of using the canal bank there and the mud would go almost halfway across the intersection. So now we have gravel. The reason we didn't pave it is this property is going into development, and when it does develop, they're going to have to pave it. But in the meantime, we put a soft surface trail in that keeps the kids out of the mud, and we have an easement, so they belong there. They're not trespassing. So that worked out really good. And then the Locust Grove sidewalk, we're going to widen the sidewalk from just north of the corner of McMillan all the way to just south of the corner of Chinden with a 10-foot wide multi-use path. That's been bid, that's been awarded, and we're going to break ground up in the spring of this year. So kind of on the same schedule as the Linder projects. And that's just another little corner of the map that you can look at later on your own time. Again, no projects on there, but you can see some of those long-term routes. The red is completed. The dash line is yet to be built, yet to be conditioned. This section has quite a bit going on. This is across the street. The top one is across the street from Tully Park, where you were thinking of. There's one missing piece in front of the paramedic station. So we're going to widen that sidewalk to 10 feet. We got to move a couple light poles and do some utility work, but that one's been bid, that's awarded, and that's going to break ground this spring as well. So that'll kind of complete that. You go across Linder, then you hit that nice 10-foot wide sidewalk and it takes you, and then it narrows down to 7. So we're going to make that right. The Woodbury path is one that we did last fall. That one's complete. That provides a connection from Bud Porter Park up through the Woodbury subdivision. This is one that will not get built by development because the subdivision has been there for years and years and years. So we were able to get an easement across their common lot and then pave that pathway. We still need to go a little bit farther north as you cross Woodbury Drive. But as you can see, where the pathway is completed and there's kind of the lime green or the highlighted area, that's going to provide a direct connection from Bud Porter Path to Settlers Park. So extremely important connection. And as the years go on, a little bit of development occurs in that area. It'll start to really make sense. And then of course the railway trail, we've been talking about that for quite a while. That one's gaining some momentum. The land swap that we need to do with the Head Start program, they paid their bond off. So that's kind of cleared the way to execute the land trade. We have federal funding for both design and construction of that project. We need to have completed plan specs and engineering by the spring of 24. So we got a year to get the right of way, and we have a year to go through the process of the plans and specs and engineering, which includes environmental and historical clearances that we have to get for the federal aid project. So, but anyway, we have a good consultant. Keller and Associates has been hired. They're used to working with federal aid projects all the time. So, you know, this is something that we don't do every day. So we have a really good team on board that can guide us through that process. So things are really looking good in that regard.
Mr. President. Hey, Mike,
Mr. Greer?
Yeah.
how long have you been trying to do Rails with Trails for like?
Oh my gosh. 8 years, 9 years, probably.
As long as I know, as long
Yeah.
as I've been here, so probably 8
Yeah.
or 9 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I wanted to point that out that while
Yeah.
just kind of going past that one, it is a huge deal. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so we started this, yeah, probably 8 years ago, and realized that we were having a hard time with the right of way. And so what we did is we bought a lot over off of Third Street. We talked to the Head Start program. We said, hey, if we buy this lot here, and then will you trade us the behind the fence part of your lot and exchange it for part of our lot? Because the benefit to you is that we're going to get our trail through. You're going to get access out onto Third Street, so buses can pull through. They don't have a dead end in the middle. So they were 100% on board, and they still are. The only thing that we had to do is we had to push pause for a while until they paid their bond off, because they couldn't trade property that was encumbered by that bond. So now the bond's paid off. We have to go through a process still and some paperwork with HUD, but it seems doable. We're getting, we already got appraisals and stuff like that. And we have to do a rezone because the Head Start has, or our lot, so Head Start is zoned Old Town, our lot is zoned R4. So we got to we have to clean that up, and they all have to have the same zoning designation. So we're gonna submit an application to rezone our lot as Old Town. And then we can start doing the trade with the surveys and the stuff. So there's a lot of behind the scenes. Anyway.
Thank you.
But we're getting there. We're not going to give up. Again, another map. Nothing much to look at on that one. And you'll get all these maps, and Rachel will send the presentation out. So a couple of projects. There was an apartment complex on Franklin called 12 Oaks. And we conditioned 12 Oaks to put a bridge in across 10 Mile Creek. And then we had to get an easement from the homeowners association in Whitestone to put a pathway through the common lot, which we did. We were able to get that. And so the bridge is in, the pathway is paved, and now kids can go from that apartment complex down to the elementary school that you can see just below that in the green area. So again, one of those good routes, keep kids off the street. And so that was short, but well worthwhile. The developer paid for the bridge and did the construction work on it. We did the pathway connections, and now we own the bridge. So that worked out really well. Stoddard Road, I think a couple of years ago, we did a pathways tour where we were riding along the Reidenbahn and it just kind of stopped at Stoddard Road. And so ACHD is widening Stoddard Road, and they're going to put a pedestrian beacon crosswalk in at the Reidenbahn and go to the west side of Stoddard Road. And then we're going to cost share on that project to widen the sidewalk to 10 feet. So again, where that, you can see that the red line, you know, that missing tooth is going to connect another, at least a mile of multi-use path. And also, again, another route, kids that are going down to the middle school there can use that as a way to get to school. So that one is, right now they're in design, they're in right away right now, and they plan to bid and break ground in the spring of 24. So summer-ish of 24, that'll be completed. Another map. It's that South Meridian, you can see, you know, we added some of those long-term routes. There's some estate lots down there that or they're not going to redevelop in the foreseeable future, but someday they might. So we want to make sure and get the pathways on the map. Same thing with this one. And then Lake Hazel Road from Locust Grove to Eagle Road. We worked out a cooperative agreement with Brighton and ACHD to widen Lake Hazel Road. Part of that cooperative development agreement was to install 10-foot sidewalks on both sides of Lake Hazel. Another important part of that project is there's a pedestrian hybrid beacon going in across from Discovery Park. So you can get across the street and get on a pathway. So hopefully, and before too long, you'll be able to bike from Hillsdale Park or the Y over to Discovery Park. And then as things connect to the west, you can keep going. So that project is, they're working on irrigation crossings right now, and they're going to start the road work February 1st. Different phases. That'll be complete by this fall, and we'll be there by the time Discovery Park Phase 2 opens up. Map. And that's South Meridian, Discovery Park, and Lake Hazel. So we kind of covered that. So here's the map that was adopted in October of 2020, and that's the map that we're conditioning pathways from. If you're annexing into the city, we can condition pathways usually without any trouble. It helps to have the map, a current map adopted. It streamlines the conversation. And then, so what we're planning to do is adopt a new map this spring. And this is the north side of that map. The highlighted areas, there's 518 changes between the last time we had a map adopted and the way the map looks now. So and a lot of those changes, they could be new connections, they could be completed connections, they could be north side of the canal, south side of the canal. But there's 518 of them. And they're highlighted on those in this kind of that purple highlighted color. So that's the north side and that's the south side. And you can see where there aren't any pathways. You can see some of that highlighted area overlaps a red line, and that changes there because that's a completed pathway. But you can see that there's a lot of those highlighted areas that currently exist where there may never have been a pathway there. So we want to make sure and get those on the map. So as things develop, that we have the correct connections in the correct location. So again, the 518 changes in the last couple of years is a ton. There's been a lot of development. There's been a lot of work. Kim's done a huge amount of work on this stuff. I'm standing in for her. She should be here because this is really a lot of the work that she's been doing. So some of the reasons behind it, what we want to do, our goal is to adopt that new working layer this spring, and we'll leave you with the spreadsheet of all the changes, the maps, and then if you could just look it over sometime in the next few weeks, email any thoughts, any questions to me independently of each other, then I'll get those added to the map or whatever. If it's just a question, hopefully I can help you out. And then, so the goal is to get that new map adopted this spring. And that concludes my presentation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate getting Guess you're wearing the hat now. Is there, one question is there effort to have a new pathways coordinator?
Yeah, so it, yes. We put the job out and we got absolutely, the way the job description, the job's kind of morphed and maybe the job description didn't keep up with the demands of the position. So we put the current job description out and we were getting applicants that were maybe leaning more towards planners and not construction managers. And we need somebody that can wear kind of both hats a little bit and maybe lean towards construction management side a little bit more. And so we were getting planners, so we pulled it, kind of tweaked the job description and put it back out. It's been out for a couple of weeks and we're definitely getting new applicants. So we're going to leave it out for another couple of weeks and see what comes in. We have 10 applications so far on the new job description. So I'm hopeful sooner the better.
Right. Because obviously in the time I've been with the commission, I mean, obviously pathways is always at the top of our list of the goals and objectives of the commission. And so it's an important thing. And I think the city citizens love the pathways, the parks and pathways, and that's a big part of that. So, amazing how many changes have been, like you said, 518. It's just grows and grows, and that's great. Anybody else? Any questions or comments from the commission?
I have a question, a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Bobo.
I'm very pleased to see them connect. That's always been my frustration, is it's great that we have so many red lines on our maps, but it doesn't do you any good to ride your bike for like a quarter of a mile and then stop.
Yeah.
Unless you have something to do at that end of that mile, half mile, there's nothing to do. So
Yeah.
seeing them connect to be able to actually ride some good distance is nice.
We're getting there. And we've identified some of those missing pieces that will not get built by development. And those are the projects we're taking on. And those are important projects. Some of them may not even be that long, but they're very important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for paying attention to that, because it's
Sure.
been very, both for myself as I ride them, but as my friends that ride them as well. They have noticed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, next on the agenda is a presentation by Steve Sitaway. But I'm thinking maybe we'll have a substitute. Mike?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Greer, could you come down and join me at the podium, please? So we wanted to take a minute and embarrass Joe and let her know how much we appreciate what she's done over the last couple of years. And I know that it's not because she's bored, it's because she really cares. She really has a passion for the community. She's taken time to study and pass her architect's exam. So she's a licensed architect now. She works on the Christmas committee, volunteers in the city of Eagle on their design review committee. And she does this not because she's bored, but because she just really cares about people and about the committee. And honestly, we couldn't ask for anybody better to help us with the decisions that we need to make. So we wanted to just say thank you with a plaque of recognition for you. Thank you. Yeah, Photoshop me out.
Mr. Chair, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
I know I'm remote tonight, but I just wanted to take a minute and thank Joe Greer for her ongoing service to this commission. It's been great as the department head to have such a devoted and dedicated person at the head of the commission the last couple of years. She finished her first year and then offered to stay on for a second year, which I really appreciated. So appreciate your leadership and always appreciate your volunteering. You're Santa's #1 elf, and really appreciate all your help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I love the city, so thank you. It feels effortless, but thank you for what you're saying. You almost made me cry. Okay.
All right, well, I don't know that I can add anything to what was said. I think we all feel the same way about Joe and all she does for the city and the parks, and yeah, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you. All right, so I think going on, the next item on the agenda is going back to previous and continued old business, and that would be the first thing is the Meridian Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. Mr. Sitaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll introduce this and then turn the time over to Art Thatcher. Art presented to you last month with a PowerPoint highlighting a lot of the updates and changes that we've all been through over the past year. I just want to say before I turn the time over to him, just that once we uploaded the final draft of the plan for your packets. Hopefully you have had a chance to look it over. Once we vetted any questions or comments that you have tonight, our hope is to request from you a formal recommendation for approval to the city council. This would then go on to the city council for their discussion and adoption. We're currently targeting the January 24th date for it to go to council. So I just wanted to point out that this is an action item on your agenda tonight. So we would be looking for an actual motion at the end if we are able to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I will turn this over to Art. Art, you're on mute still.
There we go. Good evening. How is everybody? Thank you for the opportunity to come. And Steve and I talked prior to this, and really what we thought, instead of me going over the same presentation again, because that really is the kind of the meat of the master plan, would really just kind of open it up to questions that you may have about your review of the master plan. We did kind of look at the, what had occurred from 2015 to now, and at the kind of the end of the executive summary, kind of had some highlights of the 2023 master plan, and so I can touch on those. Very briefly, we kind of, as we looked at it, future parklands, in alignment with the impact fee study, new land needed for future parks over the next 10 years. We're looking at about 121 acres in order to maintain the 3.14 acres per 1,000 residents that we have in the impact fee study. Indoor space. One of the things that has occurred as part of the impact fee space is establishing a square footage per 1,000 residents, and it was established at 0.59 square feet per 1,000 residents, which will require 22,800 square feet over the next 10 years to keep up with population growth. The strategic alignment and the strategic plan alignment, the master plan, we incorporated all of the relevant tactics from the master plan from the citywide strategic plan, so that the two are working hand in hand and are in alignment with each other. The priorities for indoor and outdoor facilities throughout the strategic, the statistically valid survey. We confirmed that the highest priority for indoor recreation was a new community center, and the highest priority for outdoor recreation was new pathways and connectivity. So it was very, it was nice to hear, Mike's presentation and the, and the strides that have been made with the pathways plan and the additions there. Adding new components, Meridian has added the swimming pool and the golf course to your statistics, and they were all part of the analysis. Our GRASP analysis, the component-based level of service analysis, notably, the parks and the components added have been keeping pace with your population growth. The number of park sites have grown from 21 to 25. Your number of components have gone from 207 in 2015 to 256. So those are new playgrounds, new picnic shelters, new ball fields, those type things. And most notably, the percentage of residents within walkable access to a recreation component has grown from 50% in 2015. 50% had a 10-minute walkable access, and now 68%. So an 18% increase over that time period. And your inventory, you have 4 new facilities, 49 new components, and you've got about 160 additional acres of parkland from what we were able to look at homeowners association and private providers, and have added to the inventory, for your level of service. We had recommended an ADA transition plan in 2015. The department developed an ADA transition plan, and you actually have implemented all of the components of the transition plan. So this master plan really just recommends maintaining your annual inspections and keeping up with ADA requirements as new development occurs. And then finally, your updated GIS data. The new master plan process provided updated GIS data for all your components, and we will provide that to the city so that it can be added to the city's GIS database. So those are kind of the highlights from 2015 to today, and the things that we've been able to implement through this master plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions, any comments that you might have related to the plan.
All right, thank you for that update. Any questions from the commission? Okay. Anything to add, Steve? Put you on the spot.
I just want to add that mainly my gratitude. This has been a process that's been going on for over a year. We started this in October of, what would it have been, 2021. So through the last part of 2021 was when we kicked off the stakeholder interviews and the public involvement process. And over that winter of 21-22, going into spring of 22 was when we did our statistically valid scientific survey, and got feedback from the citizens that has been well documented in the master plan. And I just want to thank the commission for your engagement throughout our periodic updates throughout that year, your participation in open houses and the feedback. And I also want to express my gratitude to Art Thatcher and his team at Barry Dunn In addition to the master plan itself, they've also been helping us work on the initial pro forma work for the community center, as well as a cost recovery philosophy that we took to city council back in November, I think it was. And so it's been a great process. It's rewarding to see it wrapping up. And I just want to say thank you to the commission and thank you to Art and his team at Meridian. With that, I would request any a motion or any discussion to send this on to council.
Yep. Commissioner Gelsomino.
I'd like to make a motion to this action item and to the council.
Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of moving the plan to this Meridian City Council? So, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes to send it on.
And just to
Council.
clarify, is that to send it on with a recommendation for approval?
With the recommendation to accept, right?
Wondering about that.
Sorry.
To recommend to the
Right.
council to consider approving, right?
All in favor of passing the plan along to the city council with the recommendation to accept and approve and implement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried to pass it along to the city council with approval and recommendation to accept and implement.
Thank you for the clarification.
I'm excited. All right, cool. Thank you, guys. And again, Art, thank you for all the work on this. Yeah, it's a big thing for the city.
Thank you. My
Where we're headed.
pleasure.
Okay. Next up on the agenda is Discovery Park Phase 2 Bike Park. I'm not sure that's worded right, but yeah, the bike park update for Discovery with Mike. Thanks.
Hello, again. Yeah, so I was here at the October meeting, I think it was October 12th, and we had the bike park designers here, and things have kind of changed a little bit since then, so I'm here to give you an update. So this was the first design. This is the overall site plan of Discovery Park. This includes phase 1 and phase 2. You can see where the bike park is in the upper right-hand corner, and this is the plan that was presented to you on October 12th. This was a rendering of, close-up of what that plan looked like at that time. And one of the key things that I'd like to point out is the direction of the flow. And it goes from the southwest to the northeast on this plan, which is in conflict with the natural contours of the site. So this is a plan that we got about 20 minutes before the last meeting, and they presented it. We didn't have much time to review it or go over it. And it was like, all right, let's get it out there for consumption and see what happens. So a little bit of a disclaimer there. The other thing that this plan didn't account for is ADA access. You need to have at least one of the trails has to accommodate adaptive riders, and this plan didn't do that. So it was way too steep to get up to the top there and ride down if you have some mobility issues, if you're an adaptive rider. So these were all things that we brought to their attention. They kind of went back to the drawing board, and I'll point out that at that meeting, they were talking about wood jumps and all this stuff, and yet the conversation came up, and I forget exactly how it started, but there was some talk about the budget, and it was we got we're good. We might have to value engineer some of the wood ramps and that, but things are looking good, and we felt pretty comfortable at that point. We thought we had a pretty good design, pretty decent. So From that, this drawing came back. We changed the flow on the beginner run, the green run, to go with the natural contours of the site. This was ADA accessible in the spirit of an adaptive rider. We also, one of the other comments that came up was we wanted to have two separate areas on the pump track, one for toddlers and one for bigger kids, so they're to minimize user conflicts. We didn't feel that having them all grouped together was really the right thing to do. The first plan had everybody grouped together, which we that was in some of the programming conversations. And so they pulled it out, they kept the one pump track and then separated. You can see a little oval down there, mainly just a placeholder, like, hey, we separated it. And, whether that was the right spot for it or not, probably not, because we want the uses close to one another so you can keep an eye on your kids, but we don't want them on top of one another. So again, the flow is still from that, the flow on the intermediate and the expert runs is still from contour to the, or in conflict with the site contours. So we took a look at this design, and at the same meeting, we got an opinion of cost for this design. They went through a pretty detailed accounting of costs and all the numbers there. I don't think they missed anything. But the bottom line, it came up to 3.4 million. So they had a budget of 750,000. So they completely blew it. They missed the mark. It was way too much. So it was like, look, guys, we got to start over. And one of the biggest things is that they're in direct conflict with the natural contours of the site. So by doing that, they created a situation whereby they had to bring in a 25-foot high pile of structural fill and soil, and then start working things down from there. Part of the thinking is that they wanted it to relate to the park entrance. So as you drove into the park, you would see the runs coming at you, which is a great idea in theory, but when it comes with such a high price tag, there's no way that we could even implement it. I mean, we have a budget of 750,000 allocated to this project, all in pump track, bike park. So obviously these numbers don't add up. So what we did, I mean, the project's still live. What we did is we kind of went back to the drawing board. You can see this is the overall site plan again. The footprint has shrunk on this. You can get a little better idea of the new design. So this is where we are now. We have a separated pump track. We have a green or a beginner run that is to satisfy that a requirement of ADA access and adaptive riders. We have an intermediate run that breaks off at the very end and has a couple of expert jumps at the end. So we're catering to kind of all levels, but it's just not the crazy big bike park thing that was originally envisioned. One of the biggest things we did is we flipped the whole thing so it is not in conflict with the site contours, but we go with the site contours. So it minimized the amount of structural fill that needs to be brought in. A couple of minor details that we did is that we we'll put in the handicap ramp to get across the street. That probably should have been in the original design, and it was just an oversight. So we got that as part of the regular construction project. We'll take care of the landscaping. They're doing the irrigation design. We'll take care of we can change order the existing landscaper out there to do irrigation installation and hydro seeding. We think we've got, so I want to point out though, there's no wood jumps on this. It's all dirt. It's a bicycle playground with dirt jumps. They could be added at a future date. I mean, it's not to the point where, you know, if we do this, we'll never go back. We can add onto this to the north or to the east, northeast a little bit. If we, you know, as time goes on, you never know what the future holds. But so this current design is on budget. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really cool. It's just not what we originally were presented in the beginning. So a little bit of a disappointment, but I'm here to get feedback to see if we're, you know, I apologize for maybe any kind of misleading presentations back in October, but we're here with this and we think it's going to be pretty cool. You can see how big it is in comparison to that softball field there with 300-foot fences. It's pretty good size. I mean, it's pretty fun. We're packing a lot of cool amenities into Discovery Park, and this as an offering for people that want to get their bikes out and go play around and stuff. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So I'll stop and answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Greer?
I just wanted to say that I don't think anything was misleading. And honestly, looking at the new plan, it seems like a much more efficient plan. So it makes sense to me.
Mr. President.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, Mike, for working through those issues. You know, that's a lot. It's unfortunate that they got off track so much with the topography and that added a lot of cost, but I kind of like the scale of this. It seems to fit the overall park design a little bit better. It's not overwhelming to that. And I like the idea, like you said, that you can monitor use and if needed in the future, look at potential expansion and adding elements. I'm assuming that means for like the toddler track, that's also something that could be added in the future. Is that in here? It's hard for me to tell.
Yeah, great question. So just as, yeah, this is conceptual, obviously, but the toddler track is in here. Yeah, so there's two different age groups there, but they're next to each other. So if you brought two kids to the pump track that, you know, one's 3, one's 6, you can kind of be there, keep an eye on both age groups, but they're not in direct conflict with one another. So yeah.
Okay, just a note in case I have grandchildren in the future.
Mike, I have a question. So do the designers, do they give you any idea of like what capacity is for something like this? Like, you know, or what, you know, you couldn't have 200 people here at the same time. You know, any idea that they can tell you what?
I know, but that's a great question. I can find out.
Because obviously we reduced from 3 down to 2 with 1 being a beginner, you know, and obviously the more runs there, I call them runs like a ski run, but you know, tracks, you know, obviously it's smaller, so that's less capacity, but I don't know what we need in Meridian, right? So there's, you know, or, you know, obviously it's going to be a regional draw. It's not just Meridian, right? For something like this. So I guess that's the question that comes to mind as well. It looks really good. And, you know, I guess if it gets to the point where every Saturday it's so crowded that people are complaining, then we know we need to build more.
And then we know what Discovery Park
Right.
Phase 3 has.
You know, yeah.
As an
So it's
addition
like,
to the
well, you
bike
know, I
park.
mean, maybe it's better to do this and say, well, you know, it's what we can afford and it's what looks good.
Yeah.
And if in the future it's like, wow, this really is a draw. Okay, well, then you can always add. No reason to build more than we need. So
We definitely want amenities to be well loved. well used,
Yeah.
and add more. We don't want amenities that are not used because they were either overbuilt or not popular or whatever. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Commissioner Bobo.
what is the maintenance like if the jumps are dirt? Does that mean you're gonna have to be constantly out there rebuilding the dirt?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fussy. So the very top it's clay and it's mixed with a polymer. So it's kind of a especially blended soil. It's not just like topsoil. So it holds up pretty well when people, when it's really wet out, the best practices are to close things like this. And it's almost impossible. You can't fence it, but I've seen some places that they'll move a Jersey barrier across the trail or something to prevent riders from using it. Like right now, everything is just soaking wet and it's not frozen. It's just sloppy. I mean, this, as time goes on, this, like during a period of prolonged wet weather where there's no sunshine to dry it out, we might close it for a couple of days. I know Boise does on theirs. But yeah, there's a fair amount of maintenance on stuff like that. I was thinking the whole time, great, the more wood ramps, the better. They just kind of sit there and you don't have to rake them. And, and there's definitely there's a skill to that you need the right angle on some of this, on these jumps to get you up in the air so you can make it to the next one. And we have a short amount of time. What our maintenance model is to recruit some of the biking organizations to help guide us through what the maintenance might look like. And there's SWIMBA, Southwest Idaho Mountain Bike Association, and there's a whole group of people out there that are really into this kind of stuff and they know about it. The other thing is we can contract with the bike park company to come back and kind of reshape some of this seasonally. Maybe in the spring they come and tune it up, and then so yeah.
That was my worry, that if you save on the initial cost, but then you end up spending it in 5 years on the maintenance of it. So, and you end up with still not as good of a thing to begin with.
Yeah. We visited, Eagle has a couple of they have the big mountain bike park thing. And then they have a couple of what they call bicycle playgrounds that are more like this, where they have a series of jumps. And from talking to them, it's really not that hard. So it's like, you think that after every rain, it would just erode and disappear. But because the soil is mixed with that polymer, it stays in place really well. You on the toddler pump track. I'm in.
I'll be on that one. Illinois. All right. So any other action or anything you need from us on this, just as you're just moving forward? Okay. Any other input, questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, there are no workshops on the agenda tonight. And the last thing is staff reports from the Parks Department staff. And I guess, is that Steve? Are you up?
Yeah, I just unmuted. I don't have much else to report tonight. The big focus has been on getting to the finish line of the master plan. So getting there with you tonight has been a big part of what this last month has been about for me. Of course, lots of, I think we talked about all the Christmas and Meridian activities last month. So, because we did meet right after the parade and things. So lots of activities over the holidays, lots of work going on with, golf course and gearing up for the next pool season. Believe it or not, there's just a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but with that, I'll just stand for any questions and pass the mic on to Mike.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Steve? Commission? Okay, Mike?
Probably the only thing to add is Discovery Park Phase 2 is making, it's kind of slowed down now, but we made a lot of good progress through up until Christmas. The lights on the ball fields are up in the air. Parking lot's finished. They're doing irrigation, spreading topsoil, work on the restroom concession, making a lot of good progress. The quality's still top notch, so looking good.
Any questions, Commissioner? Okay. Any other items, discussion, anybody has? Okay. Yes, sir.
Just wanted
Oh.
to thank you guys.
Oh, yeah.
This
Yeah.
was top three, actually.
Yeah.
Number one.
I agree.
definitely.
Number one, for sure.
It's my best Christmas present. I know. Have anything.
Right. Okay, well, just remind you guys, I guess, the one action item for all of us is the pathway maps and reviewing that for input as requested when that comes to you, so we can help with the good input on that. And if nothing else, I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Gelsomino,
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
I have a second.
I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. We have a second. All in favor of adjournment? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
One of these times I'm gonna say nay.